This time tomorrow, it'll be close to kick-off in the second half between England and Ghana. The squad trained today with plenty of eyes on Bukayo Saka's fitness. So will he make it for the second group game or be on the bench as he was last week? Our chief correspondent, Kaveh Solhekol, is live for us in Foxborough, Massachusetts. Kaveh, good to see you. What was the news to come out of England's final training session before the Ghana game?
Well, it was all good news for Thomas Tuchel because all 26 players were training. Of course, that doesn't mean that all 26 players are 100% fit. We already know that Bukayo Saka probably will not be considered for a starting role tomorrow against Ghana. Thomas Tuchel saying a couple of days ago that he thought that Saka would be ready to start in the third group game, which is against Panama in New York at the weekend. But Thomas Tuchel has got some selection issues to clear up over the next few hours. I don't think he'll tell his players what the starting 11 is until a few hours before kick-off tomorrow. The major issues I think he's looking at is whether to change the centre-back partnership, bring in Marc Guéhi, for instance, and also what to do about the wide players. Is he going to stick with Anthony Gordon in his starting 11 or bring in Marcus Rashford? We know that Marcus Rashford may not be 100% fit. We heard that after the game against Croatia, he felt a very, very slight hamstring strain. That hasn't stopped him training, but maybe Tuchel will be thinking about that when he names his starting 11. Also, on the other wing, will it be Noni Madueke or Bukayo Saka? We think it's almost certainly going to be Madueke because Tuchel has told us that Saka is not yet ready to start or play 90 minutes.
Do we hear from Thomas Tuchel, Kaveh?
Yes, he will be arriving at the stadium behind me. I hope he brings his umbrella. He'll be coming along with Declan Rice, the England squad flying into Boston from their training base in Kansas. Obviously, the squad will go straight to their hotel in the centre of Boston, but Tuchel and Declan Rice have to perform the mandatory pre-match press conference duties that all teams have to perform during this tournament. It's mandated by FIFA. So we'll be hearing from Thomas Tuchel. He tends to be quite engaging. He seems to be pretty talkative during these press conferences as long as he's asked football questions. Obviously, he's not going to give away his starting 11, but we may find out a little bit more about whether he's considering bringing Marc Guéhi into his starting 11, for instance. I anticipate that he's going to be asked questions, for instance, about Thomas Partey. Will the England players shake his hand before the game? Those questions, if there are any, I'm pretty sure will be shut down by the England media department, the Football Association, because so far they haven't been very keen to talk about that issue at all. There may also be one or two questions about the national anthem. Do you remember before the Croatia game, Thomas Tuchel was very, very upset that he couldn't see his players while they were singing the national anthem because his view was blocked by about 50 or so photographers, and he's asked FIFA to move those photographers, and FIFA have said they've looked at that, they have new protocols in place, but I'm not sure they've done enough to make Thomas Tuchel happy. So I think he'll be asked some questions about that as well. The press conference will be pretty late your time. I think it starts just before midnight UK time. But of course, you can stay across it by looking out for updates on the Sky Sports News website and also the Sky Sports app.
Yeah, the weather still not looking too good out there, Kaveh, where you are. How does match day look tomorrow?
I think it's going to basically rain non-stop between now and when the game kicks off at 4 p.m. local time. Even when the game starts, I think there's a 40% chance of rain, 20% chance of rain in the second half. So if England do have problems against Ghana tomorrow, they won't be able to blame the weather or the conditions, because these are conditions that they are used to. Of course, Premier League players very, very used to playing in the cold and the rain. It is actually quite cold here today. Temperatures are about 21, 22 degrees. I think tomorrow it's going to be a little bit colder. Kick-off probably around 19 degrees. So it's going to feel like England or Manchester in September or October. Perfect conditions for the England side. We've been talking a lot about thunderstorms, lightning, floods, humid conditions, high temperatures. None of that is going to concern the England players tomorrow because it will be perfect conditions, although the pitch may be a little bit slippery.
It's going to be 30 plus here, Carvey, the irony. Thank you very much. So Group L is finally balanced. Both England and Ghana know that a win will guarantee a place in the knockout stages, and the Ghana boss, Carlos Queiroz, made it clear what his side's intentions are.
One of the teams on the pitch is probably in the list of be a candidate to win the World Cup, so the full responsibilities of the game, it is on top of our opponent. But we don't escape from our dreams, goals, and responsibilities. We want to win the game. That's and one thing it is sure: when the game starts, we play to win.
This is their 5th appearance at the World Cup, and they have a pretty good record in making it out of their group. They reached the quarterfinals in 2014 and 2022. As they prepare to face England, the Ghana defender Gideon Mensah says they will be relying on key players like Antoine Semenyo.
He's one person that I'm proud of. I'm proud of his journey. Like you said, he's been playing 6 months for Man City. Before that, Bournemouth was like banging goals and doing what he's supposed to do. So having him as a teammate is something that motivates me. To know that I have somebody in front of me or beside me who's also doing well for himself. Every game you get players that you need them more than some players. And then I think this particular game is a game that we need the boys that have already played in the Premier League or still playing in there. To show us that this is the way and we have to follow them.
Since they've been out here in the US, even though we didn't see him in the first 15 minutes the other day. Seeing him out there today, he looks absolutely fine, but I would just have a cautionary note that Thomas Tuchel has hinted that maybe Game 3 in Group L against Panama is a more realistic option for Bukayo Saka to consider playing 90 minutes. Probably the smart money is on Noni Madueke keeping his place at right wing against Ghana tomorrow. Marcus Rashford with that tight hamstring, Declan Rice with his slight back niggle, which saw him taken off against Croatia as a precaution. Both of those looked absolutely fine. And actually, all of the players looked really, really on it today. Less joking around. There were some smiles right at the very start, but they seem to have their game faces on. Thomas Tuchel as well, much more reserved, stepped back from the players, wasn't communicating with them anywhere near as much as we saw on Saturday's session. It feels like all of the squad and the head coach know that the real business starts now, the real preparation for a tricky game against Ghana in Game 2. England will be in Boston later on this evening when Thomas Tuchel and the vice-captain Declan Rice will be speaking to the media. And when they do that, our chief correspondent Carvey Solokol will be there to ask the questions.
Yeah, absolutely will. Thanks, Rob. Well, one of the big decisions that Thomas Tuchel has to make is which centre-back pairing to pick. Jamie Carragher was surprised that Mark Gay was left out in favour of John Stones and Ezri Konsa against Croatia. And the former England defender thinks Tuchel might change things for Ghana.
For me, the first player who would be in the back four would be Mark Gay. So I was surprised that he didn't play. I was worried about John Stones and the amount of football he's had, not even just in the last few weeks, I'm talking in the last couple of years. To expect someone to come into a World Cup and perform at his absolute best, I'm not quite sure about that one. But he gives you something different than the other two do, probably more out-and-out defenders. But for me, Mark Gay will be playing, I think, and I'd probably give John Stones another go, and try and sort of maybe kind of get up to speed, because John Stones looks the way he looks at the moment because he hasn't played enough football. So as I said, if you're going to bring him, you've got to play him, and hopefully by the time you get to the really big games in the knockout stage, he's got 2 or 3 90 minutes under his belt and he looks a lot better.
It's quite bizarre because he's finished, Mike Gay finished strong. Konsa is, is a great player. I actually trained a little bit with him in the 21s. I was helping him in a few scenarios on a trip to Italy and Denmark. So Stone's probably there because he likes probably playing experience, want to play out from the back and set the tone. I think he might switch around because he's probably looked at the 2 goals that they conceded. Probably need to tighten up like that in a better attack against them. You don't want to be conceding another 2 goals for third man runs or clever cutbacks. So probably Mark Gay might be back in. He's understanding there's one extra more game. There's a lot of games and everyone's going to be used and it's going to be a team, a squad affair. You're not going to have the same 11 all the time. There might be one game where Harry Kane sits on the bench. It's like, well, I'll see you in the next game, into the knockout stages. That's clever kind of understanding and making sure everyone's fresh and fit.
Well, Jamie Carragher doesn't believe England can afford to leave out Declan Rice, despite concerns over his fitness. Rice was substituted in the 72nd minute of England's opener, and Thomas Tuchel revealed it was as a precaution after the midfielder had felt discomfort in his lower back and upper hamstring.
You don't rest on a World Cup. Listen, if England could win the next game, and maybe you'd look to do that in the third game if they were guaranteed top spots. But no, I don't think you're in a situation where you're resting Declan Rice. I'm not quite sure what the injury was. I seen an interview with Declan a day or so ago, and he said he's absolutely fine. I think it was more precautionary than too much of an injury, really. So yeah, it seems to me like he's fine. It's something that he's been carrying for a lot of the season. But listen, he's been one of the best players in the league. For me, he would have been PFA Player of the Year if I was still a player and picking that role. So no, it hasn't affected him too much at all playing for Arsenal, and probably the right decision to bring him off, make sure he's 100% fit for this game. But if needs be, get this game won out the way and maybe rest him against Panama.
To Scotland and their crucial match against Brazil on Wednesday. Steve Clarke's side know a point would all but secure their spot in the last 32. Luke Shanley has been at their camp in Charlotte.
Yeah, and Scotland know they're going to have to be a threat going forward as well as defensively solid against Brazil. They've played 10 times. Scotland have never managed to beat Brazil, but can they create history? Well, Lawrence Shankland started in the first game in the World Cup against Haiti. He was up front with Shea Adams, but Adams was the lone striker when Scotland played Morocco. What are Lawrence Shankland's thoughts about trying to get back into the team?
Listen, the manager will have his views on everybody and where he sees their strengths being within the team and within the squad. He's got a large group of players to pick from out there. All you can do is, when you get the opportunity, do well when you go in, train well, and stay in his mind. There'll be a lot for him to think about, obviously. It's a big team selection, getting into such a big game as well. So, but I'll leave that side of things up to him. All I do is try and train well and give myself the best opportunity.
Well, he did score against Curaçao, a couple of goals against Curaçao and also against Bolivia in the warm-up games, and he had a good season, Lawrence Shankland. 20 goals for Heart of Midlothian. Of course, they were 3 minutes away from winning the Scottish Premiership title. He has got that move now to Rangers, and he's been joined by his former Heart of Midlothian head coach Derek McInnes there too. But in terms of Shankland and trying to take on Brazil, that is his full focus ahead of the big one.
Well, we know it's massive. Obviously, we've given ourselves the opportunity. We win in the first game to get into the next two and hopefully get a point for them at least. Missed out in Morocco, but we know we've got a big chance against Brazil. As you say, it'll be a tough challenge. Really quality squad, good team, and we'll need to battle our best to get something out of it. For me particularly, you think of the World Cup, I think Brazil's one of the first teams that come to your mind. The first team I remember proper watching the World Cup and them winning it. So we know the challenge of that, we know obviously that side of it, but what we need to concentrate on is our jobs on the pitch, up against a good side, and as I said before, we'll need to be at our best. We're going to get a result, that's we know we need that. As I said, we'll give ourselves the opportunity to go and get it. Obviously a draw will probably be enough to take us through, but now we go there to try and win the game first and foremost, and if we can take a point for it as well, then we would take that.
Scotland know if they get something out of this one, they will qualify for the next stage. A narrow defeat might even do it as well, but it will be a huge game. Can Scotland beat Brazil for the first time ever?
Manchester United have moved a step closer to building a new stadium after buying the majority of land needed to develop a new 100,000-seater home. The land is 350 metres away from Old Trafford and is seen by the club as the best option for their new home, which will become the biggest sporting arena in the UK. They'll continue to work on buying the remaining land needed, but they don't expect any issues in acquiring it. Well, United's new stadium development CEO, Colette Roach, said today's news highlights the progress we're making towards a world-class new home for Manchester United and represents a significant milestone as we move into the next phase of development. Being able to build so close to Old Trafford allows us to preserve the heritage, traditions and rituals that are so important to our fans. We're committed to building a world-class stadium with our supporters, not just for them, with atmosphere, affordability and accessibility at the heart of our thinking. This is a generational opportunity that is fully aligned with both local and national growth ambitions. Securing the right land for our new home has been absolutely critical, and the land we've acquired gives us the stage to deliver a truly world-class stadium that honours our past and is ready for our future.